While there are tons of cool-looking animals, there are very few that get attention as newborns. After all, with the exception of puppies and kittens, most of us only ever see an animal at a zoo or in a wildlife documentary once it's fully grown. However, there are some species that have truly incredible-looking babies. So today, we're taking a look at the top 15 incredible newborn animals. Number 15. The pelican. Pelicans are definitely one of the more strangely shaped birds out there. After all, their beaks are absolutely massive, and they typically use it to consume copious amounts of fish and other marine life. However, while they may be impressive birds once fully grown, the Dalmatian pelican, which found throughout Eurasia, has offspring that certainly rival their adult selves. That's because their babies are born featherless, bark like a dog, and are considered by most to be pretty ugly. However, as time goes on, they continue to grow and reach an impressive adult length of up to 1.8 meters and a wingspan of up to 3.5 meters, making them one of the largest birds in Europe. Thanks to the fact that they're one of the most endangered species of pelican on the planet, they may one day go extinct if conservation efforts aren't ramped up quickly. Number 14. The blue whale. As far as size goes, the blue whale reigns supreme in the animal kingdom. That's because at an adult length of up to 33 meters and an adult weight of up to 120,000 kilograms, they are by far the world's heaviest animal. As a result, it shouldn't come as a surprise that at a weight of about 3 tons and a length of about 7 meters, they are about 20 times heavier than the average adult human. Yet in order to grow to the incredible size of an adult blue whale, the whale calf has to drink a lot of milk. As such, the mother whale typically will produce more than 190 liters of milk a day, with the milk having a fat content that is as high as 50%. This allows the whale calf to gain about 90 to 115 kilograms every single day, with this rate of growth being continued for between 6 to 12 months. It's only then that the blue whale begins to eat krill and starts to act more like an adult. Number 13. The king cobra. As far as snake species go, few are quite as feared as the king cobra. That's because these impressive snakes, which grow to lengths of about 4 meters, are extremely deadly, as the venom from their bite directly attacks their victim's central nervous system and leads to severe pain, paralysis, cardiovascular collapse, and eventually, death via respiratory failure. While you may hope that their babies would be a little less dangerous, this is anything but true. That's because as soon as a cobra is born, it can begin to take care of itself, as it can spread its hood and strike at prey on the very same day that it hatches. Now, if for whatever reason the 45-centimeter long snake is unable to find food, it can stay nourished off of the egg for as long as 2 weeks, giving it enough time to learn how to hunt effectively. As a result, these newborns are certainly one of the most self-reliant on this list. Number 12. The sea turtle. While sea turtles may be tiny, they definitely are mighty. That's because when a baby sea turtle hatch, they are essentially like miniature versions of their adult selves, as they have to make the long trek from their hatching spot to the ocean immediately after emerging from their shell. This leads to mad dashes on the day that all the eggs in the nest hatch, as oftentimes over 100 turtles will make their way from the nest, across the beach and into the ocean. However, due to the fact that these turtles are essentially left to fend for themselves, they have a very high mortality rate, as only about 1 in every 1,000 survive into adulthood. Yet if they do manage to dodge predators and find enough food to grow to their adult size, they easily become one of the ocean's most beautiful creatures. Number 11. The Bottlenose dolphin. If you've ever been to an aquatic zoo such as SeaWorld or Marineland, chances are you've seen a bottlenose dolphin. That's because this species is widely used in dolphin shows due to its intelligence, and they can be trained to perform tricks in front of an audience. Yet when they're born, they're much smaller than their adult counterparts, as they measure in at just 125 centimeters and only weigh about 16 kilograms. However, in order to grow, a baby dolphin will nurse on its mother's milk for several years and will eventually wean off of their mother's milk as they learn how to survive off catching fish. Until this happens, baby dolphins will generally swim in the middle of a dolphin pod or group, where they're protected from predators such as killer whales and sharks. Yet after 3 to 6 years, they then become fully grown and are able to fend for themselves. Number 10. The African elephant. Out of all the animals out there, few are as impressive as the African elephant. That's because at weights of up to 6,000 kilograms and heights of about 3.3 meters from foot to shoulder, they are by far the world's largest land animal. And as such, it shouldn't come as a surprise that their babies are on the larger side as well. That's because despite being a relatively small 1 meter tall, they weigh an astounding 115 kilograms at birth, making them heavier than the average adult male. Yet despite their size, they're not nearly as strong or capable as their adult counterparts. That's because at first they have very poor vision and can only recognize their mothers by touch, scent, and sound. They also tend to not know how to use their trunks, and as a result will often suck on them in a similar way to as a human baby would suck on their thumb. Yet while they may be pretty vulnerable at first, it doesn't take long for them to grow to massive proportions, as baby elephants will drink up to 11 liters of milk per day in order to quickly reach their adult size. And as a result, by the time they're about 1 year old, they're able to use their trunks to grasp items, eat leaves, drink water, and bathe in swamps just like an adult elephant would. Number 9. The Pygmy hippo. When you think of a hippopotamus, the large ones found throughout the African continent are probably what come to mind. However, there is a species known as the pygmy hippo that's perhaps even more interesting than their larger counterparts. Now, pygmy hippos are only found in Western Africa and are considered to be endangered thanks to widespread hunting and deforestation. Their appearance is also quite unique, as they have greenish-black skin, small snouts, and produce a pinkish fluid called blood sweat that protects their skin from sunlight and harmful bacteria. Yet despite being known as pygmy hippos, they nonetheless are still quite large, as they typically grow to about 1.75 meters and weigh a sizable 275 kilograms. However, at birth, their babies are significantly smaller. That's because when a baby pygmy hippo is born, they generally weigh in at just 5 to 6 kilograms, and as such, the baby consumes a lot of milk in order to grow. As a result, at 1 month old, the baby hippo usually weighs 3 times its birth weight, and at 5 months, they weigh 10 times their birth weight. However, after about 8 months, the hippos are able to strike off on their own and no longer need the direct support of their mother. We are constantly adding more people to the Top 5's production team to bring you all the best content. Be sure to subscribe with notifications on and hit the like button. Number 8. Baby kangaroo. Out of all the animals found on the Australian subcontinent, few are as famous as the kangaroo. That's because this jumping marsupial is not found anywhere else in the world, and thus has captured the hearts of animal lovers worldwide. However, what many don't realize is that kangaroos are actually rather large, and at 2 meters in height and 90 kilograms in weight, typically grow to sizes that rival most adult humans. Yet despite the fact that adult kangaroos are rather large, their babies are anything but. That's because when a baby kangaroo or joey is born, it's only the size of a lima bean and only weighs about 1 gram. As a result, it will immediately crawl to its mother's pouch, where it will attach its mouth to one of 4 teats, which then enlarges to hold the young animal in place. It is here that the animal stays for about 9 months, and after this period is over, the joey will slowly begin to explore the outside world. Once fully developed, the joey will then leave the pouch permanently and live its life as an adult kangaroo. Number 7. The platypus. Out of all the species on the planet, few are quite as strange as the platypus. That's because this animal stands apart for not only being just one of 5 mammals in the world that lays eggs, but also for sporting webbed feet, a ducked bill, and a poisonous stinger. As a result, it was largely considered to be a hoax when first brought to Britain back in 1798. However, it has now become one of the country's most beloved animals. Yet due to it being so strange, it shouldn't come as a surprise that its babies are also a little atypical as well. Now, when a platypus first hatches from the egg, it's both hairless and blind, and thus it's entirely dependent on the mother for support. As a result, it will drink milk produced by the mother. Yet rather than drink out of a teat, the platypus mother will instead have the milk seep out of her skin, where it then pools in her abdomen so the young platypus can lap it up. To top off this strange oddity, platypuses are also born with teeth, which they use to help grind up leaves given to them by the mother. However, after a very short time period, they fall out and their function is instead replaced by the platypus's duckbill. And as such, it goes without saying that platypuses are definitely one of the weirder animals out there. Number 6. Koalas. Out of all the marsupials on the planet, few are quite as cute as the koala. That's because this species, which is found throughout the Australian subcontinent, is easily one of the country's most recognizable. A mainstay in many zoos, it survives off a diet that consists almost solely on eucalyptus leaves and is known for being a rather docile and unintimidating creature. Yet while adult koalas may look pretty harmless, their offspring bring this to a whole new level. That's because these little guys come in at a weight of just half a gram at birth, and as such, baby koalas will immediately crawl into its mother's pouch and attach themselves to one of her 2 teats. However, the koala has one of the lowest milk energy production rates in relation to body size of any mammal, and as a result, the baby koala will continue to drink its mother's milk for as long as up to 12 months before finally being weaned. However, once this 12-month period is up, the koala will leave its pouch and live a normal adult life. Number 5. The panda bear. Put simply, panda bears are easily one of the world's cutest animals. Yet this cuteness comes with a lot of heftiness as well, as this species, which is found throughout central China, typically weigh over 100 kilograms and measure in at about 1.5 meters long. However, while these bamboo-eating bears may be pretty big, their babies are anything but. That's because at birth the cub weighs just 100 grams, which means that panda mothers are 900 times larger as their babies. They're also pink, blind, and furless, as their trademark black and white coloring doesn't develop until they're about 3 weeks old. As a result, they are extremely vulnerable as youngsters and often rely on their mother's milk for about 2 months after being born. This unfortunately means that the cubs often have a high mortality rate, with this often being caused by not only poor environmental conditions, but because the mother will oftentimes purposely abandon one of her own babies. This is because in the wild, half of all pandas give birth to twins. However, if this occurs, a mother panda will typically abandon one and raise the other. As a result, in order to avoid this problem with pandas that are in captivity, zoos have started to swap panda babies in and out periodically so that they're both cared for by the mother. On a macro scale, it's hoped that this will ultimately help get their numbers back up to sustainable levels. Interestingly enough, there's also been a lot of research as to why baby pandas are as small as they are. And while the data isn't 100% conclusive, what researchers have found is that compared to other bears, pandas have uniquely underdeveloped bones at birth. As a result, development that would often occur in the uterus of other bear species occurs outside of the uterus with pandas, thus making them extremely tiny when they are newborns. Number 4. The butterfly. But of all the newborn animals out there, few are quite as fascinating as the caterpillar. And while there are many species and many variations between them, generally speaking, butterflies started their lives as caterpillars. And these little guys are pretty interesting in their own right, as they have a lot of features that separate them from most other animal babies. For one, caterpillars typically have as many as 12 eyes, and they will usually have 2 sets of 6 tiny eyelets arranged in a semicircle on each side of their head. And while this amount of eyes should hypothetically give them 20/20 vision, their eyesight is in fact very weak, and they often can only use them to differentiate between light and dark tones. In order to squirm around, they often have as many as 4,000 muscles in their body, which is absolutely incredible when compared to the mere 650 found in humans. To top this off, many caterpillars also have the unique ability of producing silk, which they generally use to help them travel from place to place, create a communal living space, or construct a cocoon depending on the species. However, due to the high quality of this silk material, many areas of the world actually harvest it in order to create luxurious pieces of clothing. Yet of course, a caterpillar can't remain a caterpillar forever, and thus, in order to grow and develop, their main goal is to eat as much as possible. As such, after hatching, they will usually go on to immediately eat the shell they hatched out of, and from there they will eat at a rate that is so great that by the end of their time as a caterpillar, they will often balloon to as much as 27,000 times their initial body weight. Then once they reach their desired weight after several weeks of eating, they then create a cocoon where, after developing in this enclosed environment, they eventually come out as a beautiful adult butterfly. Number 3. Frog. There are thousands of species of frogs that inhabit our world's swamps and water bodies, and as a result, the babies that they produce are all unique in a variety of different ways. Now, on a base level, they do share some similarities. After all, almost all tadpoles hatch from eggs, have gills in which they breathe out of, and live off of a diet of algae and other small plants. However, depending on their species, many have different adaptations that make them stand apart. Perhaps one of the most incredible types of tadpoles is the bullfrog tadpole. That's because there are some species that, due to hormonal imbalances, will in rare occurrences never mature into frogs, yet still live long and full lives. Such was the case with a bullfrog tadpole found in a pond in Arizona in 2018. As despite being only in its baby stage, it still measured in at a whopping 257 millimeters long, making it larger than a banana. However, there are some tadpoles, such as that of the poison dart frog, that spend much of their time out of the water. That's because this species lays its eggs on the jungle floor, and after about 2 weeks, the mother will then carry the tadpoles on her back and bring them to a small reservoir of water located in the center of a bromeliad plant, leaf axil, or tiny tree hole. It's in this tiny environment that the mother will feed and care for her young until they are fully grown. Yet perhaps the most interesting tadpole upbringing of them all occurs with Darwin's frog tadpoles. That's because as soon as they're born, the male will actually swallow the tadpoles whole. Once they're swallowed, he stores them in his vocal sacs, where they stay and develop into little froglets. It's only once this development is complete that the father spits them back out into the world. Number 2. The giraffe. It goes without saying that giraffes are by and large the tallest species in the animal kingdom. That's because at a height of about 6 meters, they tower over every other species, and as such have gained fame worldwide for their strange yet beautiful appearance, and their offspring are similar in that they are just as unique. Now, when baby giraffes are born, they already measure in at a height of about 1.8 meters and weigh in at anywhere between 45 to 70 kilograms. Interestingly, they're born with their eyes open and look very much like miniature adults, with the only discrepancy being that their little horns, which are known as ossicones, are folded flat against their head while they're inside the mother and thus take some time to come out. However, what doesn't take any time to come out is their appetite, as they begin to eat within the first hour of being born. Their first meals generally consist of their mother's milk, with this milk consumption continuing for the first 4 to 6 months of the baby's life. After that, they'll begin to eat leaves, and they often eat up to 35 kilograms of food per day and spend as much as 18 hours per day consuming leaves. They will also receive most of their care from their mother, as it's her who will clean them, feed them, and teach them how to fend for themselves. Yet most incredibly of all, female giraffes will sometimes team together to create their own little giraffe daycares, where one female will watch all the baby giraffes while the other females tend to other matters. It is as a result of all this attention that for about 4 years baby giraffes develop into full-fledged adults. Number 1. The immortal jellyfish. While immortality may be impossible in humans, the same cannot be said for the Turritopsis species of jellyfish. That's because it is the only animal in the world that can be a baby more than once, as it has a unique ability to continuously regenerate itself rather than pass away. How does this work, you may ask? Well, at first, these jellyfish are born as tiny little polyps that are so small that they measure in at less than 1 millimeter. They develop into a cylindrical colony on the seafloor, where they ultimately spawn into free-swimming and genetically identical jellyfish. As adults, they come in at an almost tiny 4.5 millimeters and sport a bright red stomach, a body that is a transparent bell, and up to 90 white tentacles. However, once their adult life gets to a point where it must come to an end, rather than just die, they undergo a process known as transdifferentiation. This essentially means that the jellyfish will have its cells revert back to their first stage of development, completely changing their specialization in the process. This then allows it to begin its life cycle all over again, thus making it so that the species truly is biologically immortal. And while that doesn't mean that it can reproduce forever, after all, it can still be eaten by predators or die due to poor water conditions, its potential to become a newborn for an infinite amount of times certainly makes it one of the world's most impressive animals. As such, their DNA has recently gone through extensive research to try to figure out if their regenerative abilities can be recreated in humans. That's all we've got for you today, everyone, and thank you all for watching. Let us know in the comments down below which baby animal you thought was the most interesting. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and smash the notification button so that you don't miss out on any of our latest content. Until next time.